Welcome to our Sprint 2 presentation video deliverable. My name is Vaughn Berger,
And my name is Montgomery Russell.
and we represent the group doing under the company name Fast Finances. All right. So we are first starting by going over our software design document. We have made some expansive changes to it since the last version. So the overview remains pretty much the same. We are providing a accounting application for a company to manage their finances with. It needs to be easy to use, facilitate their accounting needs, and we will deliver this product complete on time and within budget. The environment is still the same as last time. It's a web app, so it should run in most web browsers without being too intensive on system resources like RAM, and run on modern operating systems like Windows 10 or Mac OS. Data sensitivity, we will be handling the data with a lot of security. We're storing in a external database. We are keeping the passwords encrypted. We do not store anything in plain text. And those are the two primary things. We are communicating through the front backend with HTTP and HTTPS. Our general constraints, the database should be very responsive. It should not be difficult to use or very laggy. It should be able to run on lower end machines, so it must have good performance. Our development methods have remained the same. We are using Scrum. We are meeting in a week-by-week basis. Every Saturday we meet and we have meetings where we lay out the objectives for the week and what we are going to do and get done and how much we've gotten done since last week. And then every 2 weeks we have a project deliverable due. So the system architecture. We have a 3-layer structure for our architecture. There is the front end, which will be completely done in HTML and JavaScript, and that handles the UI and user's interface of the web app. There will be the back end, which is done using Python and the Fast API framework, which will allow the front end, the back end to communicate. And the database is going to be done using a Python extension for MongoDB, which allows the backend to, again, communicate with the database and send information to the front end. This is our UML class diagram. The main method is the biggest class, and it has all of the API calls. That's what all those functions are. They mostly deal with handling custom-made data classes, which allow it to format incoming JSON information from the front end. So they take in things like user info, which you can see is the class directly to that right. And then that further branches off into the role enum, and then user, which defines a list of valid attributes for the user, and then email and new user request. The main, hold on one moment. Yeah, the main class also connects to the database access class, which is its own submodule, and that has primarily 2 functions so far. That is the get document and the edit document. So this is how it communicates with the MongoDB database. The front end will call API calls in the main class, and those will then use the database access class and its helper methods to access the database's information. All right. Oh, you can scroll, Monty.
Yes, sir.
All right. So this is our database UML diagram. This has a comprehensive view of the data that we're storing. We have the users schema table, and that contains all of the data and attributes that will be needed for a user who is logging into the system. So this is going to be like their personal information, their login information, and any other data about them, their role in the company. There is the accounts table, which has all the information about the financial accounts. There's the errors table, which stores every single error that we have in the database. So when the user comes across an error or the program has an error, it will be stored in this table. And then there's the events table, which updates every single time there is a change or an addition to the database. So this will keep an accurate record of who is creating and editing user accounts and the accounts. It will also record when it happened and who made the edit. So those are the most notable new additions to the SDD. We have the screen mockups again, but we showed that in the last sprint, and they haven't changed, so we can skip over them for now. So we'll move on to the software test plan. So this is an overview of our plan for testing. We'll be you can scroll a little bit past the table of contents. Oh, I think my stream's frozen.
And so for the overview, we're just kind of looking to facilitate like practices and commonly known testing methods for this type of stuff, especially with us looking at like the scope of the project and everything of that sort. So we're really trying to focus on features, to test to make sure that the API modules all work and have consistent functions, and just to ensure that the email module also and all the database integration and everything that's included with that is going to be tested.
Those are the primary most important features to be tested. So we have three approaches we're going to be using for tests. We're going to be unit testing, which will be different for every single layer of the architecture. The backend database are going to be similar because they're both in Python, and Python has a library we can use called unit test. The front end won't have any automated testing, but we will still have similar testing parameters of testing the common average use case, edge cases, and all the possible error cases. After unit testing, we'll also be doing these are a little bit misordered. We'll have to edit this later. Integration testing, or interface testing, which is testing each of the individual modules and how they interact with each other, how they send back and forth data. The two most primary interfaces we need to test is between the front end and the back end through the API calls, and then the back end and the database through the PyMongoDB module. And very similarly, we'll be using unit testing with the Python unit test library where applicable, and hand testing otherwise. For full system testing, the integration testing, this will be just running the program in a simulated environment. We are going to have user stories and scenarios that will run through average cases of what a user might look like when using the software and what kinds of things they'd use it for. And we'll go down through that story. We'll play it out in our software to test it. And then acceptance testing, after we have finished with our last deliverable, we will do final testing to make sure it matches up with all of our requirements and send off the code once it has been accepted by the client.
And like we mentioned, we did touch a little bit on the user testing with testing each individual with the stories and ensuring that all functionality happens. And then we also touched last time on the testing process for Sprint 1. And so it's a very similar deal for Sprint 2, as we are going to talk about the environmental requirements and everything of that sort.
Yeah. Luckily, the environmental requirements for testing, not very difficult. The unit test module is a part of Python, so it's just run out of any IDE. We don't need any external hardware or software or tools. It's just an extra library that can be implemented in code. And since we're not using any testing frameworks for the JavaScript end of it, we the requirements are light in terms of environment.
And as far as the rest goes with mitigation plans and skill failure and team miscommunication, none of that's really changed since Sprint 1. So with
Yeah,
that being all said, we're going to go to our SRS, which is our software requirement specification.
this one has also not changed a lot since Sprint 1, other than all of the new deliverable requirements that come with Sprint 2. So for functional requirements, this is mostly going to be everything that has to do with the new financial accounts, which is allowing administrators to manage those accounts, to create new ones and edit them, and then allowing the managers and the accountants to view them but not edit or add new ones.
Along with a few other misguided plans on that forefront.
Mm-hmm.
Along with this, the mention of ledgers and journal entries are to be noted. And as
Those
far
are
as,
for future sprints. I do believe
yes,
that's Sprint 3 stuff.
and then you also have your non functional requirements, which also hasn't changed as much. Now, moving on to the user manual, we do have a user manual for the moment. It is not terribly in depth for the moment because we are still troubleshooting and figuring out what we're actually doing. A lot is going to change over the next little bit. And so it really just touches down on the main bases that we know, things from the sprint, and then just the starting page because a lot of it's changed in between the first sprint and the second sprint. And I think that pretty much covers all of our documentation for the moment.
That does. All
So,
right, Mark, would you like to take it away with the demonstration of our software?
sure enough, so we have a different login screen now. You can still do the create new and the forget, but I have a dummy account set up just for the moment so we can show that you can actually see and view. So the first thing we're going to go do is we'll see the user roster, and because there's no other accounts in it, it's just the admin, manager, and employee, the dummy accounts, we can actually go back and I'll make myself an account. So obviously this is my name. As you can see, I've done this a handful of times. We're just going to use a random email and we're going to pick today's date because that's when I made this. And you have to make your specific password that's 8 characters, has a specialty. And because I'm in an admin account, I can also make myself an admin. As you can see, that is my login. mrussell0320. It pops up, pops you back so you can test your email or test your uh, test your login. And so, as we see, I log in just fine. A lot of this is touching on Sprint 1, where we actually now have a functional email that we'll actually send. It's kind of hard to show you for the current moment, being that I only have one screen. I'd love to pull up my email at the same time. But just to show you, that's how that functions. All right, it does function with the Python API calls to the backend. Now we can look at account viewing and see all of this. And so here are some of the accounts that we did set up. Now we can also look at these and actually add, but we can also sort. So I can say if I want cash, cash pops up. If I want accounts, of course, if I have a larger account, I can try other things and actually get it to show. You also have your date picks and your date pick when you pick it out. Say it's actually today's date, and then you would go to edit. Now we do have a small issue with our API acting up, and we had a small catastrophic failure. It's
Yeah.
it's currently 4:30 in the morning, for reference. So we had a small
Mhm.
catastrophic error, and it's not currently working, but it literally just was. So I will show you what does work for the moment. So we actually go here to add account, Apparently that's not working neither, but I can manually pop that one up. Um, I'll manually pop that one up. That is on me. It'll allow you to actually make an account. Now we do have a cash and account receivable. I'm just going to make something up just for the time being, just to show that it actually shows.
Call it owner's equity.
There you go. I like it.
And that'll be the credit normal side.
Yep. So we go credit, and we'll just
that's going to be, the category will be equity.
okay. An NA on that, and our initial balance will be, what would you say?
Let's call it $70,000.
I like it. And zero debt. We're gonna say zero credit. Well, you have to put your. Sorry.
Never mind.
And I don't remember the pen for this. And so just to show you, when we go to hit add, it'll pop up, but it'll keep you on the screen just in case you need to add more accounts. You can actually go back to your user manual management page, and then you can go back here. And as you can see, owner equity and everything shows up along with the account number as it grows. It also shows your subcategory where you're at, the initial balance, the debt, the credit, your actual balance because of where we're at. And then of course, in a perfect world, you'd be able to adjust, but we can also just type in and be able to find what type of accounts and all that good stuff. So basically, with that being said, that's basically where we're caught up to. Is there anything else I've missed, Vaughn?
Not to my knowledge.
All right. Well, thank you for bearing with us today. And this has been Fast Finances with Montgomery Russell. And
Vaughn Berger.
thank you very much.